webinar, we will go over how to complete a request for reimbursement in EMGrantsPro. This is the Requesting Reimbursement Part 2 video. To begin, you'll need to make sure that you are at the project level. From here, one thing to point out on the Summary tab, in the project details, you have two areas, federal obligated and local share. When you click expand, it will show you what of your federal obligated has been paid, what is in process, and what is unpaid. Same with the local share amount, what has been documented and what has not. To begin a request for reimbursement, from your project level, click Create New Request. At the project level, once you click Create a New Request, this is the box that you will see. And you'll see the option New Reimbursement Request. You select that, takes you to this screen. You'll come down and click Create New Expense. The first field you'll need to fill in or select from the dropdown is Type. For EMPG, you will select Other. You will always select Other for EMPG for type. The period of work performance dates will be the start of a quarter and the end of a quarter. If you've decided to submit one reimbursement request for the first 3 quarters, that time frame would be October 1st of 2016. You can hand type that in, or you can use the calendar feature. The vendor field stays blank, the invoice number stays blank, invoice date stays blank, invoice paid date stays blank. The total documented amount you will need to have gone through the process of looking at your expenditure reports and tallying up all the EMPG expenditures, which include match. Referencing back to the Part 1 video, we've already looked and examined our expense detail report, and we've come up with a total. Total documented expenditures for that time period of October 1st to June 30th. That total is $41,085.41. Now you will need to proceed to build out the project cost section. To get an idea of how you do that, I go back to the Excel document of where we had totaled up all of our EMPG expenditures. And the first step is to divide each of those categories by 2. So you have a planning line that's federal and a planning line that's match. So quickly, I will add those project cost lines to look similar. The project cost lines come in from your application. So you'll click Add Project Cost. You'll see you have a federal and match for every single category that you included within your application. Real quickly, I'll point out the small red X's along the right-hand side of this section is to delete the row. If you've added a wrong row, you can delete the entire row by clicking that X. From here, we need to look at the balance remaining of each of the federal cost lines. The federal cost lines show the balance remaining right here, balance $2,250. You cannot exceed those line items for the federal portions. That's why I encourage you to do an Excel sheet, because after you've divided your amounts in 2, you need to make sure what the project balance is in each of the cost lines. And as you can see, the federal amount is lower than what half of the total expenses in planning would be. So in this case, you can't do one-to-one because that would exceed your federal allocation. So if you use an Excel sheet, you can put in what your balance remaining of each of the federal lines is, that $2,250, the $14,870, the $1850, $10,375, and the $4,297.5. When you plug that into an Excel spreadsheet, you're able to enter, okay, that's the maximum federal, and then subtract it from the total document expenditures, which gives you a match of more than half of the total. This will now enable you to quickly fill out the project cost section. Once you get done filling in those project cost expense lines, you'll notice a trend. For every federal line, you enter the amount only in the amount eligible. For every match line, you're going to enter that match amount once in the amount eligible and that exact same number into the local share. The amount eligible column total will check against your total documented amount. This total documented amount, again, remember, is tied to that documentation that you had done previously. This is saying you had $41,000 of EMPG expenditures. $20,000 of that is match. You need to scroll down the share breakdown, make sure the method is clicked by amount. And because you've already totaled things up here, I recommend copying the total local share, putting 0 in the state share. The remaining amount I know will be my federal. So this says I had $41,000 of eligible EMPG expenditures. I expect a check for reimbursement of $20,260. I am showing that $20,825 of additional expenses were match. All of these sections check against each other. So you will get an error if one of these sections is off. If I had a typo here, I'll get an error that says the cost line total must equal the amount eligible. So I know to look here, it is checking that number against here, and that's where I'm getting off. So after you've resolved that error, you need to complete the rest of the form. If you had specific equipment, which in this case we did, we had an auto teleconferencing system for $20,750. So we need to add that as part of inventory tracking. You leave the check warrant number and the description sections blank. The justification of costs will be, you can simply say quarters 1 through 3, or quarter 4, or quarters 1 through 4. After you have completed that information. There's not a save button, it is a create button on the top left. You can click create, and you'll notice a few things change across the top. Now you have a save button, and now it is labeled an expense with a number and part of a reimbursement request. One thing to point out here, if you would like to print your reimbursement request at this time, the circle with the upside down triangle, you can scroll down to say print page, entire form, click print, and print your expense. Now it is time to add the document or the documents, depending on how many documents you have to support your financial reimbursement. So you can click on documents here to the left, click add document, choose files, find your expenditure report that you'd marked up to clearly indicate which expenses you were counting, select type, supporting documentation, select upload, and I encourage you to click on it then and make sure you uploaded the right document. And there it is. That's my expenditure detail report for the time period of 10/1 to 6/30, clearly indicating which costs I'm counting. So now I need to submit. You are in the expense. In order to submit, you click the back to reimbursement request, and you'll see it is in draft. From here, you won't have an advance button. You will have what is called a submit button, but same little arrow, it'll just say submit. From here, click submit, leave a note, or you don't have to, say yes, and then it will say initial review step 2 of 4. Here at HSEMD, we will receive an automated alert letting us know you've submitted your request for reimbursement.